Hello, I'm Ben. I'm hoping this is going to change soon. I have no control over this. This is a selection of amusing things that people have done using the IIIF API. And, should it be moving? It is moving. No, I beg your pardon. Okay, that's terrible, because that means I'm now going to overrun by 23 seconds. As a software developer, which is what I really am, the IIIF is fantastically liberating, the API, and it lets people do things like this. And I think you've seen Ben Alberton also showed another example of the same idea. So this is Michael Appleby's puzzle solution, which, when you actually go to it, offers a range of different images from different IIIF sources. My only request to one or other of those gentlemen is to add the ability to just drop in a manifest from anywhere so that I can waste the rest of my life. This is something from two of my colleagues at Cogapp. It's a very ingenious way. We worked on a project called the Qatar Digital Library. Indeed, we continue to work on it, which currently has, I believe, about 1.5 million records. And this was a way of improving the transcriptions using an arcade machine to fire at incorrect transcriptions. There are, according to this, 1.8 million pages in the QDL, so actually winning on this arcade machine can take a while. This is a project from Stanford using the David Rumsey map collection, and it just enhances your Chrome, so every time you open a new tab, you get a map from the collection, and as you can see, you can entirely forget what it was you opened the tab for, because you then just get lost in exploring maps, which is an excellent plan. And I believe he's also created an Apple TV old map room, which is worth investigating. This is a very nice project from the good folk of Digerati, which takes a manifest and uses it to present the works as if they were in a gallery, and including, I mean, this is actually looking at the image, which is but as you can see, it includes nicely rendered labels, taking, again, the data out of manifest. It's a brilliant example of how the interoperability of the standard lets people do these things. This is a rather bizarre project, again, one of my colleagues did on a hack day we had, in which you were invited to use IIIF and use the OpenC driver, really, which is sort of the deep zoom viewer on anything. Meanwhile, in the control room, up to 9 of these things were being monitored, and as anyone moved and zoomed, this is a rather clunky demonstration of it, you can see that in the control room, the security guard could see exactly what everyone was viewing. And that's just another example of what our life is going to be like in the future, I'm afraid. Medieval Maker Word, which I think we saw a tiny fragment of earlier, and we may hear more about. This is, I believe, how very early ransom notes were created, and it's what I use these days for my criminal activities. And look, there really is fun with IIIF. There you go, that's as much as you're going to get. My next 2 examples are both called Exquisite Corpse. When I was a child, I knew this, and it wasn't called Exquisite Corpse, but I think you instantly know what we're talking about when you see the examples. This one, I believe, is from Jeff Stewart of Harvard Art Museums. And as you refresh the page, you get new examples. And there's another one here from Leander Sige. I'm afraid I don't know what the institution for that is. But you can see this is one for the sort of the completists who really want to get it just right. And it's also excellent for trainee plastic surgeons, I believe. And this was created for Coding Da Vinci in 2018. This way, I don't know if my colleague John White ever does any real work, because he does seem to do an awful lot of this sort of thing. So this was created to work as an experiment again. And as you can see, this is using the trade cards from the Boston Public Library. And the thing in the bottom right shows this was actually designed when we started messing around with Google Cardboard. So you could move around and look at the back of the card to see, aha, indeed, just that. Can't remember what happened if you fired on it, but something probably did. This is a brilliant example for software developers, perhaps less so for digital scholars, because this is subverting the API. Everywhere else we've seen, the source has been a digitized image. But here, the API, the viewer doesn't know what this is, the viewing software, I mean, but this is actually just been created on the fly, which is, of course, the nature of Fractals, that you can do that. More mucking about from my colleagues who need some more work. This is Tristan Roddice, who also has 3 I's in his name. And this was another hack day. He's trying to be Harrison Ford, trying to recreate the scene from Blade Runner movie. I think, fortunately, the phone hasn't showed you that's actually a cardboard box stuck to a monitor. And he's shouting, enhance, enhance, and so on at the thing. And it actually sort of worked. I think there might have been audio with this movie, but I'm very sorry you're seeing it out. And this is perhaps a little more useful. This is the World War I Wall, created by Ilse Daniel at the National Library of Wales on a very large 4K touchscreen monitor, and it runs completely alone. My notes here say size of a cigarette packet. I'm not sure what that meant. This one you don't really need to look at. You can just read your email for a second, because my colleague Andy will be here on Wednesday with a session on Wednesday morning. No, sorry, I beg your pardon. You do need to look at this one. This is a very different way of looking at art, very slowly, hands off, as you can see, just like me now. And it simply takes you on a very slow, immersive journey across an artwork at extreme detail. And it's actually remarkably soothing and lovely. And we implemented that for the Clifford Still Museum. For once, we were doing some real work. This is a story quilt, which I think I'll let speak for itself. And this was the Wellcome Collection Digerati, and it takes you through the automatic rotation. This is an interesting experiment. I think we've seen Leander before on this list. And it's a item you can drag in. I've proved this. You can connect any image and then use it to, you select your phone type as well, and then you can drag and drop and create your very lovely phone cover. I'm not actually sure it's been connected to anything that lets you order the phone cover, but it certainly shows the wealth of things that you can do with these simple APIs make it possible to do something completely different. Tristan, my colleague, mucking around again, I'm sorry there's so many of these things sent out from Cogapp. He was interested in doing infinite zoom, and what he did was he worked at the Internet Archive and scanned about 88,000 of their images and established their basic color values in order to create something where you can zoom into an image and find more images. Each pixel is another image for the color. His top tip, even though this was the Internet Archive as opposed to the basic internet, is to avoid flesh tones in your original images. Apparently the internet is filthy. Who knew? This is the one that you can stop and read your email for a second, because this is the topic that Andy will be presenting at on Wednesday in the 9:30 to 10:30 session, which is a way of telling stories about images using IIIF. I think the interesting thing about this is we wanted to do this very standard compliant. So this is using the annotations you've seen before in the absolutely standard IIIF protocol and animating them. I should stop talking about that. And then lastly, this is an example without programming, just showing what you can do for frivolous processes with IIIF. Thank you.